Okay, continue. So just remember, when we want to do the file processing, the first thing you need to include the library. Then depends on you want to read or write file. You need to create the ifstream object for reading a file. You need to create the ofstream object for write to the file. So after you have this object ready, you need to open the file. So you provide the file name in a string. So for the input file, the most important thing we also want to check if they open correctly. So you can either using this way to check if the file open correctly, or this one, like we say, you also can using the fail member function. So this one we can replace with in file object invoke the fail member function. So if they fail, they will return 1. So that's the same thing. They will tell you that means file open. You failed to open the file. Okay, so then after you can open the file correctly, then no matter that's the in file or out file, they are very similar to cout and cin. So we will talk about in the future what their relationship. But here I just can tell you, actually the ofstream object. So here our example is out file, right? They just kind of child from the cout. So that's why how the cout work, they are exactly work to the ofstream. So remember, when we want to print something, we do the cout, then we do the less and less. So then what you want to display to the cout, right? So the same thing, what you want to write to the output file, you're just using the less and less, the insertion, to insert the string you want to write to the file. So the same thing, you see your ifstream, they just like the child from cin. So remember cin, when we read from the keyboard, then we're using greater to save the information to the variable, right? So when you do the ifstream, so then we read value token by token, you can insert into the variable. And also sometimes maybe in one line you have multiple variable. So then you just continue with your ifstream object. Then you do the insertion, you can have multiple variable. So they just work like cin. So that's why a lot of time when we want to using the cin or the ifstream, the string extraction operator greater, they will, after they done correctly, they will return true. Otherwise, if they fail, they will return false. That means you ask me to add a number to the part num variable, but then you don't have that number. So that's why this operator, actually they return true and false to you too. And also using this true and false, that's why we can write the ifstream. We say, for example, earlier, we say this one we're using the in file. So how about we just using in file? So then we have an in file ifstream object. So then actually I can insert to the number. So then here, if I put in the while loop, then we just know I continue add number a value to update the number variable. But sometimes when I finish read from the input file, I have nothing to add to the num variable. Then this operator, they will return false. So then I know I will leave my while loop. Because a lot of time when we read in the file, we just want to continue to read from beginning to the end. Then no matter that's a new line or a space, so then they will treat that token. So we can read the value one by one. So then sometimes when we just continue to read from the file to the variable, then we know when they reach the end of the file, then eventually this one, they will return false. So we know we finished the while loop. Yeah, so I know here I give you so much information, right? So then here I just want to give you the introduction. Of course, now we will see the example. So then the next example is we will create an ifstream object. Then we will open a text file. So then we will read until the file to the end. But also don't forget, after we finish process, even the while loop fail, any ofstream or ifstream, they should be close the file. So we can make sure the operating system close the file when the program ends. Otherwise, sometimes if the file keep open, no one else can access the file again. Okay, so then next one, let's see the example. So the next example actually is example 10. So this example we will show you, they will try to read the file from the list of numbers.txt file. So this txt file actually I already show you in the demo file folder, and also in our reading page, I show you the link. So then here, you will see we will using the example 10. So example 10, we will show you how we will let the user to specify the file name. So then we will open the file. So like we say, anytime when you want to read or write to the file, we will include ifstream. So then because we want to see out something on the screen, so we have ifstream. So then here, because we want to read the user input, so we need to include the string library. So now the first thing, you see, because I say I want you to read from the file, so that's why I create ifstream object called input file. So that's the object name. So later, this input file, they will work exactly just like cin. But instead, we read from the keyboard, we read from the text file. So then we just ask the user to enter the file name. So I will save in the string. So then earlier I showed you in this text file, did you see we have few integer number? So I will show you how we will read 100, 200 one by one. So then we will display to show how we read. So then right here, you will have a variable called number. So this variable actually is a placeholder I read. Every number I read, I save to the number. So later we can do some process. So maybe actually the later you appear exercise, I want you to add all the number value together to get the sum. But here we just have the number variable here. Okay, good. So because I have ifstream, I can read from the user input, right? So we see out to the user, we say, please enter the file name. Then you will enter the file name. So this file name example, we have the list of numbers.txt file. So you need to enter this name. So then you will have the cin, we save the file name. So now remember earlier we say, whenever you want to have file process, you have couple steps. After you create ifstream or ofstream object, then we will open the file. So that's why here, after we got the file name, so you see input file object, I dot open. I open the file name. So you can see this one, we don't have double quote. That's because I already saved the user input into the string. Because when we open, this data type is a string. So that's why here we only give them the variable name. So since we read the file, right, please always add this code block. Okay, because we want to make sure the file being opened correctly. So that's why you will see if the input file is true, okay, that means I open correctly. I can process. Otherwise, if that's false, then we will say I have error to opening the file. So then here, if you run this program, you have error. That means you didn't save your input file correctly. So after we can open this file correctly, right, so here we show you the while loop. So your while loop, you see here, I have the input file object. Like I say, they just work like cin. So they just read a number saved to the number. Right, so you see here how they process. So after I open the file, I input file, C, I read from the file for the first number. So they will read 100. So then they save to 100. So then here we read from the file, right? So then we write to the console to make sure we read correctly. So then you see again after they read 100, so then we see out to the console. Then again, after I done, because the program didn't finish, right? So I continue to read 200 to the number. Then I display 200 on the console. So then, because earlier this one is true, so I continue, I read, next one will be 300. So I save to the number. So I display number on the console. Then 400. Then 500. Then 600. Then 700. Yeah, so when we still have 700, we do the input file, insert this 700 to number. So this one will return true. So I continue to see out 700. But then after I read 700, I come back to the while loop. Yeah, because I finished the loop, right? So I will come back to the while loop. But when I come back to the while loop, after the 700, I try to read another number. But do I have any number here? No, after 700, I have no other number here, right? So that's why when you try to read to save the variable again, they don't have the information. So that's why this operator will return false. So then return false, we finish our while loop. So we finish processing all the data from the file. So after you're done, don't forget you need to close your file, your ifstream file. So then you finish. So that's our example 10. So of course here I explain to you what's going on. Of course, the most important thing is you need to run from your IDE. So that's why the first thing I will show you how we run this program from the Xcode, from the Cloud9. So then you will see here, I do have my example 10, right? So then you see all the library include. We create input file object. So then we ask the user to enter the file name. So then we open the file. So then, like earlier I showed you, if the file open correctly, so then I will process. So then if not, you see they will give you the error, not opening the file. But one thing is I want to show you later. Okay, so let me run first. So I run this program first, then I will show you where this file we need to save. So remember now they ask us to enter the file name, right? Okay, so the file name, like I say, I prepared this text file called list of numbers.txt file. So then here, when I enter, I need to list. Let me see. Yeah, list of numbers.txt. So then you see here, after I enter that, so then they open the file. So then they read line by line. So that's why they display. After they read line by line, so then they see out to the console. So that's why we have the output here. But one thing is, when I say you can open the file, right? That's because you did download the list of numbers.txt file. So for Cloud9, okay, for Cloud9, this file you need to save in the same location as your driver program. So you see here is our chapter 5 example 10. So they are under here. So then in the same location, you also need to have your list of numbers.txt file. So that's why you see you open the file that look like this. So that's why here, when you want to open the file, you need to make sure you will save in the correct location. Otherwise, you see, for example, we run again. I say, enter the file name, right? So I just say file. See, because I don't have any file called files, so that's why you see they cannot find the file. So that's why they say error opening file.